When it comes to wealth management, one thing is clear. Technology isn't just supporting the industry anymore, it's reshaping it. But with so many tools, trends, and buzzwords flying around, how do you actually know what moves the needle? This is what we'll dig into today. Hi, and welcome to Wealth Insider, a podcast by Performativ. This is where industry meets insight, where we sit down for honest and engaging conversations with voices from every corner of the financial world. Together, we explore trends, strategies, and partnerships that are shaping the future of wealth management. Wealth Insider brings you closer to the people and the ideas that are driving the industry forward. I'm your host, Christian Lindvall, Global Commercial Director at Performativ, and I am thrilled to be joined today by partner and CIO at Valuedge, Renco van Schie. Renco, welcome to Copenhagen, and thank you very much for being our very first guest on our first podcast.
Thanks for your invitation.
So maybe a good place to start. Who is Valuedge, and what are the type of clients that you serve?
Yeah, first of all, I'm Renco van Schie, so CIO and founder of Valuedge Wealth Management. We're based in the southern part of Amsterdam. Founded the company in 2012, and we predominantly service private clients, corporate clients, and some foundations where we focus on clients north of 500,000 euros in the management. So we exist about 13 years. Why I started Valuedge is I worked on the sell side with all sorts of professional clients, looked into the kitchen of many different investment strategies. By the time I got to 40 years, I thought it would be a very nice job to do wealth management with private clients based on like three distinctive features. One is that we have a dynamic asset allocation process where we deviate more from static benchmarks and allocation models. Secondly, that we've from the start worked more with technology than I think most of our competitors did. And third is that at Valuedge you talk to the owners and the senior people at the company, so that you have you get a very high level service from people that have been working in the industry for decades.
Fantastic. And then as Chief Investment Officer, what does a typical day look like for you?
It's very diverse, and that's what I very much like about this job. This morning I got up at 5 to come to you in Copenhagen, Chris. But normally I would get up about 7 o'clock, look at what the market's done in Asia and see what the news flow is. Then I get to work most of the days, but we also have a very flexible schedule at Valuedge where you can work from home or from any place where you think you need to work to be effective for the company. I do a lot of client conversations, presentations, busy with the strategy of the investment portfolios, working with the media. For example, this morning published a column for the Dutch press. So it's very diverse, but it's basically in combination with looking at the investment side of the business, but as a partner, also very much looking at managing the business. And then we're talking about anything that you need to do to have, for example, your license from the Dutch Central Bank and the Authority Financial Markets.
So let's make maybe a bit of a pivot here and talk about technology within the wealth management space. You've been in it for 10 plus years. How has technology evolved over the last 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, as far as we go, we can say that back in 2012, the way the independent wealth management business was structured in the Netherlands was that a lot of people worked with banks like Bank or Insinger Gillis or ABN AMRO Bank, which provide services to independent wealth managers. And a lot of the end clients, they logged onto a portal of the bank, which you made in your own colors. And that was kind of the portal that clients were looking at. But I thought it was insufficient to show what kind of service you provide to your clients and to really show what you wanted them to see. So we started creating our own app already from the start, where we work, for example, with Bank, but then a client had also access to our own app. I think if you look right now that a lot of the wealth managers either have already switched to a separate system, and especially a system that could combine different custodian into into one framework. And that's actually what we've been looking for from the start, is not working with one custodian. We work with 3 banks now. But to be able to have your own system where you can create invoices, reports, that whatever bank a client is holding the account, that the service that we do looks the same in all circumstances.
It seems like you guys have done a good job of leveraging technology to help you out on a day-to-day basis. In the industry itself, do you think it's being leveraged enough, or do you think there's still a gap between the wealth management space and the technology needed to really make each of these firms as efficient as possible?
Yeah, I still think there's a gap, but I don't think that only counts for the wealth management industry. I think there's many parts of our economy where especially on the service side of matters, that you see that technology becomes more and more mainstream and the backbone of an organization. And I think in wealth management that increased really after COVID, where a lot of people, organizations working with many people, we're seeing that by leveraging technology within their business, it was easier for them to operate from any place, anytime. So I think, it's gone a long way already, but I think we have a longer way to go from here.
And then from a scalability perspective, how has technology helped you actually scale Valuedge? Like, what are the biggest benefits you've seen by using technology to help you scale?
Well, as a wealth manager, we try to work 85% of our time on investing and working with clients. Means that the other 15% will be operational activities for the organization that you need to do to be a wealth manager and be compliant with regulation and all sorts of other stuff. And so what technology did for Valuedge is that with a limited amount of people, we were able to service a high number of clients, but also automate and simplify a lot of tasks that normally would take up a lot of our time, and do them much quicker and much more efficient.
How has the adoption been within your firm? Has there been any resistance to it, or has everybody been excited about adopting a technology to kind of help scale?
I would say excitement is the right word, because I think, ever since we got the first iPhone in 2007, people do realize that, we're technology and using technology is the way forward. So being very stubborn in going against this development probably isn't very smart, but I don't think that anybody objects to technology to help you do your day-to-day job better, as I said, more efficiently and maybe with a higher quality, and so that your productivity goes up and you're more important for a firm. I don't think anybody could have any objections to that.
And then there's so many technologies out in the space. How do you decide on which technologies to actually invest in?
To invest in the portfolios, or as a firm?
As a firm.
As a firm. Well, I would say that you can identify some tasks that you certainly need to do, and I brought in the regulation angle. So anything that you invest in to comply with regulation, I would say is a must investment. For example, where we recently invested in is much more into a new round of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is also much more on a focus point of regulators, and so we don't feel we have to do more on cybersecurity and not less, and probably will be even more in the future. So that's a must for us. For us, it was also a must to start working with Performativ last year, because the capabilities of the system allowed us to do our work much better than we did before. So that I would say is a must investments. Where I'm not convinced yet is how AI or technology really is gonna help you improve investing. And for example, a lot of the large investment banks have already been working with AI to improve investment results for the last 10 years. And so far, the results haven't been exceptional. So I see leveraging the technology or AI into our firm more on the organizational side right now than on pure investment portfolios.
So I guess in that sense, then, from a trends perspective over the next 5 years, you see maybe refinement within AI in particular in the space? Is there, or what are the sort of evolving trends in your view in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think AI and automation and let's say the use of big data is going to help a lot of the organizational processes. And for example, we have the Digital Operational Resilience Act, the DORA regulation. DORA is very much a very good example of how you can use AI of reading through large blocks of text and combine them with the regulation that you need to comply to and what you do as a firm. But you could also see AI helping you on many other aspects of your business. And that way you can, with the same amount of people, with better technology, you can service more clients at the same time.
So what's one lesson you've learned about integrating technology into your firm? Maybe a lesson that you wish you would have learned earlier.
Well, there's maybe two. One is, I think what's always very difficult to know is what kind of technology is out there. So you never know, are you working with the right people? But it's difficult to know what is the right technology for you to use. I've always tried to, look around me and look at the world and see what's out there and see what fits with us. But it's despite that you get approached by many companies, I think that's a difficult part to source it in the first place. The second part is that I think I've got a realistic view on how our business works and a general view of how IT works, but sometimes I would say it's unclear to me really how much the technology can do right now. And if I would known that some technology was already available, I would probably use it sooner. So I still think there's a gap to fill between what technology can do for you now and how you can use it, because that gap is closed. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you were advising a smaller wealth manager who's just starting their digital journey, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Well, if they really have growth ambition, I would say, don't just spend on technology, spend on IT, and even though the revenues may come a little bit later, but using technology to scale your business is, I think it's it's a necessity in this 2025, and I don't think you can go without it.
Did you back in 2012 when you started Valuedge? Did you see it as a necessity then, or were you just kind of dipping your toe into, okay, I know this is probably coming, but still doing things maybe on like spreadsheets, Excel, etc. I guess in that sense, are you surprised at the pace at which technology has evolved in the space itself?
Not really. And to be honest, I had expected some technology to be there already before. I think it's maybe a matter of, the European market is still very much fragmented at this moment. You have all sorts of different cultures and type of clients in a way of servicing your clients in many different countries in Europe. So a lot of the technology providers have been looking more at a national level than on a European level, and I think therefore a lot of the development within the technology space has been a bit slower than I anticipated then. And so back in 2012, I approached an IT company myself to see if we could build a platform that the clients could log on to, and that worked very well for a long time. But now there's more things coming available in a much quicker way, and where the wealth management system, as I see it, becomes much more a combination of all sorts of modules that you can combine, and where it's really the backbone of our organization. And if the organization grows, you have to get the backbone stronger. So that's why we continue to invest in technology and also, partner up to improve the technology.
Yeah, and then from the client side, if you're offering like a client portal, an app that they can access, what is it that they're actually looking for on a day-to-day basis? This is something that, from a technology perspective, they want like the the best and the latest looking app, but it only is actually defining maybe 3 or 4 different KPIs for them? Like what does the client actually want from the technology that you're providing?
That's a difficult question because every client in a way is different. And so I would say one of it is convenience. So the app being very convenient and easy to access to, either by face recognition like we have now, or any other way. Secondly, is that it's simple to use. So what for us is important, that obviously we have a dashboard where you see what the portfolio value is, what the returns are, and you can stretch that over certain periods of time. We have a Valuedge risk meter where you see the score on the risk meter. There we have a document section where you get all the reports, the invoices, you get the publications and the strategy letters that we write. So everything's in there, but I think it should be easy to use. And it should have enough for people that want to see a lot so they can be satisfied, but also people that look only, from time to time, that they also get out of it what they want.
And then I guess even looking further into the future, so say like in 2030, what do you think the future success looks like for a wealth management firm in 2030 as technology continues to evolve and is needed in the space?
I think a lot of the aspects of what we do will be more personalized. So not only the interactions with clients, but also the let's say the behavior of clients on an app or on other parts of your on the service that we do will be much more driven by technology. I believe that a lot of the elements that we need to do as a wealth manager will all be in one product. So that you don't need to use very different solutions tagged along next to each other, but you have just one stop solution of where you can do anything you want. I think that a lot of people will use more custodians to work with because they're easily connectable to a system like that. And I think also from a monitoring point of view, and that's something that we can do already now with Performativ, is that we can get more and different portfolios downloaded in the system, so that people have an overview of their complete asset position. They can click on different accounts to see how one account is doing, how another portfolio is doing. So very much more on the level where you, as a trusted advisor, sit together with a client and can look at anything at any point in time. And especially any point in time is that the way clients can monitor portfolios will only be speeding up.
And I guess in that sense, I mean, you're localized obviously to Amsterdam. You're in the Dutch market, but I guess in theory, technology makes it allowable. It doesn't preclude you from getting clients elsewhere in Europe. I know you mentioned like there's some defined technologies that just focus on the Dutch market or the German market, et cetera. And now I think it's becoming probably pretty clear that a technology needs to help you scale the business even outside of where you're at. So as you look to the future of Valuedge, you've been running the company now for 13 years. Like, how do you see that element? Like, do you evolve outside of the Netherlands?
Yeah, we have clients in many different countries, but at the moment they're mostly Dutch people living abroad in countries like France, Spain, Germany, but even in countries in Asia. But it's all Dutch people that like to speak about investing in their own language and working under Dutch rule and regulation. I do see that when the European market gets less fragmented and more one, that it will also allow us to lend clients that are non-Dutch and that live in France or in Germany or in Belgium. And so I think it will definitely open up a bigger client base for us. But I would say most important is that in also a market where good personnel is very scarce, Very good technology just gives us the opportunity to grow without being pressurized by not finding the right people. And the system that we work with, really, if it also is being developed further, that's obviously more that many people can do.
So I know I asked about before, what advice would you give to somebody on their digital journey? But I guess if somebody was looking to start their own wealth management firm just from scratch, what's a piece of advice that you would give them just starting out? So not technologically per se, but just where would they start? Like, what's a good piece of advice?
I think it would always be a good piece of advice that if you start, that you already have some sort of a client base to start off with, so that you don't start with zero revenues. But obviously, with a starting client base, that already gives you some revenues to build your track record, your footprint from. And looking back in the 13 years, if I had to start it over again, I would probably not change too much. The only thing that I would have better access to is much better technology from the start at a much cheaper price. Because if you look in general, then I would say that software, what it does to companies, but the costs that come along have gone, they're going cheaper by the year. So also by working with very good technology, it limits your costs and it protects your profitability. So I would always still say you need a good client base, a good strategy, obviously, and I would say from the start, direct good technology to support you.
Perfect. I think that's a great place to end. Renco, thank you so much for joining us on our first podcast episode. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you again for being a Performativ customer.
Thank you, Chris, for having me.